Hey everyone, I wanted to do another video on using pools and variables that dealt with using this IP address pool, which is a lot different than the strings. The strings are just hard-coded values and you can do whatever you want with it. With the IP address, and this is kind of cool, you can create a range and really need to come up with some sort of scheme to keep these things separated. So I just called this IPR for IP range for the pool. I called it net test because I don't want to really use this one. I just want to show it to you. So you pop it in network, you pop in a subnet mask, and it automatically populates it with the first and last address in the range for hosts. And then you create your variable, which I called an R for range. Once again, I need a scheme I stick with. I call it net test based on upon this pool, and you got your typical three random element position and seed. And then you got this thing called entire range, which is kind of cool, which says it could be any number between 1 and 254. And so what I'll do is I will go into so remember it's R test, net test. So I'm going to go in instructions and under static, I'm going to put that in there so that when we run this or test it, you can see that's your valid range of numbers that's being generated by that variable. So any number between 1 and 254. So if you're trying to test for a range of IP addresses, super cool. Now, my dilemma is that if when I hit reset, now look at the numbers over here. Of course, it pulled the same network. I hit the wrong thing. Let me hit reset again. There we go. I just pulled a different network. I'm dynamically, providing the network I want to use for this network. But notice that the static one from the pool didn't change. And that's a problem. So if I wanted to test these PCs, if they were between the IP10 and 20, I don't want to test this range. I want to test the range that I'm using on the right. So what you can do is you can actually set that up with variables. Now hopefully it'll behave for us. I did have some issues with it previously, and so we'll find out. I want to make sure it's checked because I want to use that later. So I'm going to create another one, IP range underscore. I'm just going to call it network because that's the one I really want. And here's where it's going to get a little different. I need to use a variable. Now, actually, let me just kind of go back to strings. I'm going to have to rebuild it. So IP prefix is going to contain 192.168.1, 172.16.0, or 10.0.0. Only the first three octets. So I'm going to copy that so I don't screw this up. So is IP range, I'll just call it network, bracket bracket for variable, paste, bracket bracket. So now I've now, through the variable, provided the first three octets based upon whatever index that variable chooses. So it should, match whatever network is chosen. And then you do a dot zero because you got to, you have to give it the network address. I could use a variable for the subnet mask if I was doing different subnet masks. I do have one. I'll double check it in a little bit. And then I pop in, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to back that 0 off. I'm going to change it to a 10. Change it to a 20. Now create another variable. And I'll just call it host IPs. Hopefully, I might have another variable that's close. No, I don't have another variable that's close. I'll just call it host. Based upon the IPR network pool, I want to do the entire range, which means 10 through 20. Let me save this. And then what I'll do is I'll go into the instructions and I'll pop in the rhost variable. it says dynamic. And we'll test it and see what, save it and test it and see what happens. Hopefully it'll work. Alright, cool. So the network that was chosen, look at the right, 10.00 over here. You look at the directions, it did pull the right network, and it's 10 through 20. That's the valid ranges. Let me hit reset and see if I can grab another network. Yep, 172.16.0 on the topology, and it picked it up here. This is awesome. So now I can get IPs 10 through 20 on the network that I'm checking against, not a static. So you got two ways to use this. If you're not doing packet tracers where you're changing up the networks to keep the students on their toes, and you're doing static ones, and there's nothing wrong with that, you can go either direction with this. So I wanted to give you both types, so you can kind of pick your poison, if you will. And then to actually kind of put this into action, you would go into your answer network, and you would go to the IP, and it was our host. I already got the subnet mask set because I did have a variable for that. I got the gateway set. Let me hit save. And now if I run this thing, test it rather. Alright, so it's the 10 network. So let me move this so we can kind of see we want to look for this to jump up. Now it will jump up automatically even with the wrong IP because the subnet mask will match. Well, actually with the 10 network it won't because it'll default to the wrong subnet mask. So I'm glad I picked this one. So 10.0.0.9. Alright, nothing. If I get into 21, nothing. If I do a 20, it jumps. 15, it's still got points. 10, still has points. Now I need to correct the mask. There we go. And then I would also want to provide it a gateway. And then I got full credit for that PC. And of course I could go over on another PC and do the same thing. If we hit check results, we'll see that I got full credit for that one PC. And that's using, once again, I used a variable based upon an IP range, which is IP addresses. So if you ever have the need to work with ranges, this is pretty cool. If you're working with static stuff, that's fine too. You can use them for static stuff. And that will about wrap it up with this one. If I run across any other cool stuff that I run across in the variable manager, I will make another video.